So let's talk about having a customer comes in who's going to close their eyes when they shoot. This happens very, very frequently. And what you'll hear a lot of times from people when they tell you to keep both eyes open is they will explain to you very patiently that their eyes are different. And when they focus on one thing, other things become blurred or doubled. And they say they have this unique condition. It is a unique condition. It only affects every single human being on the planet. Our eyes will only focus on one thing clearly at a time. So we can focus on something that's far away, it'll make things close blurry, or we can focus on what's close, and it's going to make things far away blurry. That's how the human eye works. So when people say that, it's important to correct them, let them know they're not alone, that their condition is shared by everyone on Earth. So there's a couple of different ways to address this for the shooter. And one of the things a lot of times that we have to overcome is a very hardwired thought drilled into shooters' heads. This is what you're going to get from the guy who's been an NRA member his entire life, was taught to shoot by whatever, his grandfather. And so a lot of them were taught originally how to shoot through a scope, right? Which closing an eye is pretty natural. Also wrong with a scope, but that's a different story. So that's what they're told, and they're told focus on your front sight, focus on your front sight, focus on your front sight. But this is where you need to go back and explain to folks handguns, so your Glocks, your SIGs, right, all that sort of thing that you are carrying or have for protection purposes are not target pistols. They're not designed to put two holes in the exact same spot. In fact, if you were going to shoot somebody, you'd hate to shoot them twice in the same spot, right? There's all kinds of body areas. They all hate being shot in, so go ahead and spread it around a little bit. But people that have that idea that they've got to shoot and they've got to be able to cover are using their gun in this fashion. They're bringing their gun up to shoot it, and they are taking their breath and squeezing the trigger. That's not how the guns are designed to be used. The guns are designed to be used fast and violently. Bam, bam, bam. That's how a gun works in real life. It is designed to put multiple rounds on a target that's relatively close. If you're slowly aiming and carefully aiming to shoot somebody, you're committing murder, not self-defense. So let's break this down. When they say, when you hear front sight focus, and you're telling people to focus on your front sight, in fact, one of the largest training academies in the world is called Front Sight. Here's the problem. If I have a maniac charging at me with a machete, I'm going to focus on that person, not my front sight. The angry man with the machete deserves all of my attention. So I need to be able to utilize my sight without taking my focus off the intruder. By the way, a couple of things. Under stress, you will only focus on the intruder. That's number one, guaranteed, positive. That's what your brain is going to do. Any other objections that your brain makes, the reptile brain is going to veto, and they're going to say, nope, that's the person we're focusing on. Focus on the target. Now, we still want to be able to utilize our sights, and so we're going to have to kind of pick a little bit of a different way than finding the gun and then forcing our eyes to focus on the front sight, because that's just not going to happen. Reptile brain is not going to let you close an eye, and it's not going to allow you to focus on your front sight. You're going to focus on your attacker. So let's build some skills that take that in mind. So one of the things I'll show people is this, is just with a thumb out in front of them, have them line their thumb up with you, and if they focus on you, they will see two thumbs. And if they focus on their thumb, they'll see two of you. Well, it's better to have two thumbs than two attackers, so go ahead and keep that focus on the attacker. But we're going to teach them something a little bit different. We're going to take our thumb and we're going to rotate it over so it's pointing towards our left shoulder, and we're going to bring this right up to our chin. And as we push our hands forward, we're going to roll just like that. The gun is going to roll, and then now the front sight is going to impose itself into our field of vision. when something imposes itself in the field of vision, the eyes will give it some attention, right? So you will see your eyes start to focus on that thumb, right? And then it's immediately going to go back to your long target. But you only need to see your sights for a split second. Keep in mind, good shooters, split times on shots is somewhere between 1/5 to 1/4 of a second. So when you're talking about getting 5 shot rounds off in a second, that means your split time is 0.2. So to be able to shoot that quickly and still be able to utilize your sights is definitely possible, but you have to impose that in your sights rather than trying to find it. Most people who shoot with one eye closed do 2 other things when they bring the gun to target. The first is called bowling, right? So they bring it straight down and they bring it right up like that. That's bowling. So they're trying to impose that sight by bringing it from the bottom up, but then it's going to bob a little bit. Not a good way to bring a gun up. For one, it's very slow to get the gun on target, and 2, it becomes very unstable, right? It becomes very much of an arm-shoulder motion as opposed to a core body motion. So we want to make sure that we're imposing that by rolling it. So we don't want people to do this. This is called bowling. The other one, and my favorite target presentation because you see it all the time, is they have the gun pointed straight up in the air, and then they bring the gun forward and drop it down in front of them, right? So this is called casting, because it looks like they're casting a cane pole out into the river there, right? Bowling and casting are the 2 most common things. It is very rare that you will see somebody who has not been trained who will press the gun from their chest. But there's a lot of reasons why we want to do this. It's safer, it's faster, it's a cleaner draw, it's a better presentation to target, but it also allows you to utilize your sight. So, when that shooter comes up and they go here and they turn their head and they close an eye and they do all this sort of stuff, a lot of times people will actually hold the gun even with their shoulder and then tilt their head to meet the gun, making them the servant of the gun rather than the gun being their servant. So what we want to do is we want to teach them, and we start off without using the gun at all, of just pushing this forward and rotating that thumb up. And remember, that thumb, which they're utilizing as a sight, only has to align with the target for a fraction of the second, because the second that happens, that's when we're shooting. We really want to get people away from this idea of slowly aiming, carefully breathing, squeezing the trigger. These are things that are very important in rifle shooting, but they're not important in pistol shooting. That's why when you go to a USPSA match, you will find that the focus is often on speed rather than accuracy. Now granted, accuracy counts because you get more points for alpha scores, but you do get points for Charlie and Delta scores too. And if 2 alphas is going to cost you 2 seconds, it's better than wasting 1 second with an alpha Charlie than 2 seconds on a pair of alphas. That's just kind of the reality of the game, but that's the reality of life. If I want to shoot somebody, man, it's great if I shoot them here, but if this takes 3 seconds, that's too long and it's probably a homicide. If I shoot them here and here, still very successfully defended myself, but I'll get those shots off in half a second. So we want to make sure we're really pushing. Defensive handguns are just that. They're for defensive purposes. So when we go from showing them with our thumb to showing them with a sight, always nice with people in a store, this will matter less and less to the more experienced shooter. But if you got a nice big bright sight like this Bodyguard has, that would be great. Take that gun. So keep in mind, the best draw is from the appendix. It comes right up the body. I've got my thumbs touching each other. It's called the butterfly, right? And the sul position because it's pointing down. That's just, I don't know why we're using a Portuguese word, but that's what we do. Right here, and we're going to push it forward, and that's going to rotate that sight right up in front of our eyes. And so we're going to see it. We're looking at our attacker, we bring that up, our sight aligns, boom, 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 we shoot. Now, sometimes you will have people who are very stubborn or who don't see the sight very well because, oh, I don't know, maybe they're getting on in years and maybe there's a little more salt in their beard and very little pepper. So, this is where a red dot comes in. When you see somebody picking up a gun and aiming with a red dot and closing their eyes and turning their head, they've got it completely wrong. They're not using that red dot correctly. With the red dot, you want to bring it up and you want to look through the screen at your attacker, at your target, and now the dot will be pointing where your gun is pointing. So as soon as you line up, that you see the dot impose the double dot that you're seeing through on your single image of an attacker. Now you've got your shot, you pull your trigger. Optics are very, very important. They will get people over shooting with an eye closed. Once somebody stops shooting with an eye closed and they train themselves, they'll never go back to it. So that's very good. If you have somebody who's really having a hard time with it or doesn't know that they can learn how to shoot with both eyes open, start them on an optic. Optics simply do not work as well when you close an eye. You want to have both eyes open. Notice that when you close an eye, just so you know, you're cutting down the amount of light getting to the open eye by about 15%. We don't really notice it that much, but under stress, where you have this visual acuity is really picked up, you will notice it much more. So just keep in mind, we are doing things because we know when we're going to be shooting, we'll be shooting under stress. That's why we know it's got to be fast. It's got to be violent. You have to have bad intentions, right? And you're going to keep both eyes open. In a stress shooting, you will not close an eye no matter how bad you want to. Reptile brain just doesn't allow you making yourself willfully blind. So this is really important stuff. It is great. It is very empowering to customers. They are very surprised usually when they realize that, you know, I can shoot with both eyes open and it's actually better for me. They also really understand, and we should talk sometime with use of your range and some things that you can do with a customer that most ranges wouldn't be able to do, such as being able to work from a draw or being able to move while they shoot, whether forward, backward, sideways, whatever it might be. So certainly hope this was helpful.